the energy of someone asking for permission, rather than someone issuing a command. This creates a devastating contrast where their limitations are spoken with authority, while their possibilities are spoken with doubt. But here's where everything shifts, and this might be the most liberating truth you'll hear today. Authority has absolutely nothing to do with volume, aggression, or dramatic presentation. You don't need to shout your commands to the universe. You don't need to pound your fist or raise your voice or make grand declarations in front of other people. True authority operates in the realm of quiet certainty, unshakable conviction that needs no external validation. Think about the most powerful people you've encountered in your life, the ones who commanded genuine respect and moved mountains with their decisions. Were they the loudest people in the room? Probably not. They were the ones who spoke with such complete certainty that questioning them simply didn't occur to anyone. Their power came from the absolute conviction behind their words, not from the volume or drama of their delivery. This means you can transform your entire financial reality through whispered commands spoken in the privacy of your own space. As long as those whispers carry the weight of absolute truth, you can issue decrees that move mountains while sitting quietly in your car, walking alone in nature, or lying in bed before sleep. The universe doesn't need you to perform authority. It needs you to embody it. Now, I want to reveal the specific mechanics of how this quiet certainty actually operates, because understanding the energetic frequency of true authority will give you the confidence to speak your financial commands with unwavering conviction. Write in the comments, "I choose quiet certainty," if you're ready to stop shouting your desperation and start whispering your authority. The energetic frequency of true authority operates on a completely different wavelength than most people realize. The universe doesn't hear the sound waves coming from your vocal cords or analyze the tone of your voice like some kind of cosmic audio engineer. What it responds to is the authentic truth, an unwavering conviction that lives behind your words. This means a whispered command, spoken with absolute certainty, carries infinitely more power than a shouted affirmation laced with doubt. Think about how truth feels in your body when you speak it versus how lies or uncertainty feel. When you tell someone your real name, your actual age, or share a fact you know without question, there's a different energy in your voice. There's no hesitation, no second guessing, no internal debate. You're simply stating what is, and that certainty creates a particular vibration that everyone can sense. This is the frequency the universe recognizes as law. When you declare something about your financial reality with this same quality of absolute knowing, you're not making a request or expressing a hope. You're announcing a fact that already exists in the realm of truth, and reality begins restructuring itself to match that announcement. One decree spoken with this kind of authentic authority contains more transformative power than 10,000 repetitions spoken with uncertainty. This brings us to a fundamental shift in understanding that separates those who successfully command money from those who spend their lives begging for it. Most people approach manifestation as if they're reciting affirmations, repeating positive statements, hoping that somehow the universe will eventually be convinced. But what we're talking about here isn't affirmation at all. This is about speaking law, and law operates under completely different principles. Think about how actual laws function in the physical world. When a legislature passes a new law, they don't repeat the vote every day hoping it will eventually take effect. They declare it once with proper authority, and from that moment forward, reality within that jurisdiction must align with that decree. The law doesn't ask twice. It doesn't negotiate or plead for compliance. It simply exists, and everything else adjusts accordingly. This is exactly how your words are meant to function when you speak from genuine authority about your financial circumstances. You're not trying to convince the universe of anything. You're not repeating yourself, hoping it will eventually stick. You're declaring what is already true at the deepest level of reality, and the physical world has no choice but to catch up with that declaration. The transformation happens the moment you recognize that you're not petitioning for abundance. You're announcing it. You're not requesting financial freedom. You're proclaiming it. This shift from asking to declaring, from hoping to knowing, from affirmation to law, changes everything about how your words impact reality. Now I want to share the profound implications of what happens when you finally step into this identity of someone who speaks law rather than someone who repeats wishes, because this journey transforms not just your bank account, but your entire relationship with your own power. Write in the comments, "I speak law now," if you feel this shift from asking to declaring resonating in your understanding. When you step into this identity of someone who speaks law rather than repeats wishes, you begin to understand something that completely reframes your entire relationship with money. Money isn't deaf to your requests. It isn't ignoring your pleas or deliberately withholding itself from you out of spite or judgment. Money is actually in a state of patient waiting, like a loyal servant standing by for clear instructions from someone who knows how to give them. Think about this. From money's perspective, if you will. It's been listening to millions of people every day. And what does it hear? The same desperate, uncertain voices making the same weak requests over and over again. Please come to me. I hope I can afford this. Maybe someday I'll have enough. These voices all blend together into a chorus of uncertainty, and uncertainty doesn't command respect or response from anything, including money. But then imagine money encounters a voice that sounds completely different. A voice that doesn't beg or plead or repeat itself nervously. A voice that speaks with the quiet certainty of someone who knows exactly what they're talking about. That voice cuts through all the noise immediately. Money recognizes authority when it hears it, and it responds accordingly because it's finally receiving clear, decisive direction from someone who sounds like they know how to be in charge. Your journey toward financial transformation isn't about developing some new, mystical ability you don't currently possess. The proof that you already have this power is written all over your current circumstances. When you've declared negative things about money with absolute conviction, reality proved you right every single time. You didn't need to repeat, "I'll never get out of this debt" 100 times before circumstances aligned to make it true. You said it once, with the full weight of your frustration and certainty, and life began arranging itself to confirm that declaration. When you've muttered, "I can't afford this," while looking at something you wanted, you didn't spend weeks chanting that limitation before it became real. You spoke it once with complete belief, and your bank account immediately reflected that truth. This proves beyond any doubt that your words already carry tremendous creative power. The mechanism is already functioning perfectly. The authority is already yours. You've just been unconsciously directing it toward limitation instead of abundance. The beautiful irony is that changing your financial reality requires exactly the same process you've been using to maintain your current limitations. Same authority, same conviction, same single-moment declaration. The only difference is the content of what you're declaring and the direction you're pointing that power. Now I want to reveal the specific moment when everything clicks into place, because there's a precise instant when you stop being someone who hopes for money and become someone who commands it. Write in the comments, "I see my track record," if you're recognizing how consistently your negative declarations have been creating your current reality. That precise instant arrives when you finally ask yourself the right question. The question isn't whether this principle of command actually works. You've already proven it works through countless demonstrations in your own life. The real question is, what law have you been commanding without realizing it? What reality have you been unconsciously decreeing through your everyday declarations about money, success, and possibility? This shift in perspective changes everything, because it moves you from wondering if you have power to recognizing that you've been wielding tremendous power all along. You've just been pointing it in the wrong direction. Every limitation you're currently experiencing exists because at some point you spoke it into existence with absolute conviction. Every financial struggle you're facing is the direct result of commands you issued from a place of frustration, fear, or resignation. But here's where the transformation becomes beautiful rather than tragic. The same exact mechanism that created your current limitations can create unlimited abundance. The same authority that manifested your struggles can manifest your success. The same conviction that proved your fears right can prove your dreams right. Nothing about your fundamental power needs to change. You just need to consciously redirect it. Most people live in the most heartbreaking contradiction imaginable. They possess absolute authority over their reality, but they spend their entire lives acting like powerless beggars outside their own palace. Picture this image clearly. Someone sitting on the steps of a magnificent castle, holding their crown in their lap instead of wearing it on their head, complaining about being homeless while the keys to their own kingdom hang from their belt. This is the tragedy of the human relationship with money. People carry the authority to command wealth, but they never step into that authority. They have access to the throne of financial sovereignty, but they choose to sit on the ground asking for scraps. They possess the power to decree abundance, but they use that same power to declare limitation. They own the palace of possibility, but they live like homeless refugees begging for permission to exist. The saddest part is that no one is keeping them outside. No external force is preventing them from claiming their rightful position. The door to the palace isn't locked. The crown fits perfectly. The throne was designed specifically for them. They're choosing to remain in a state of powerlessness because it feels familiar, because it requires no responsibility, because commanding reality feels too overwhelming or presumptuous. Now, I want to expose the deeper psychological patterns that keep people trapped in this self-imposed exile from their own power, because understanding these hidden barriers is essential for finally walking through the palace doors. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to claim my throne," if you're tired of being a beggar outside your own palace of financial possibility. The psychological patterns that keep people trapped outside their own palace of financial possibility reveal a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of reality itself. Most people have been conditioned to believe that reality is stubborn, resistant, difficult to change. They think the universe is some kind of cosmic bureaucrat that requires endless paperwork, perfect behavior, and months of waiting before approving their requests for abundance. But this entire framework is completely backwards. Reality isn't stubborn at all. It's actually the most obedient force in existence. It responds instantly and precisely to whatever commands it receives. The problem isn't that reality refuses to cooperate with your desires. The problem is that reality has been perfectly cooperating with commands you didn't realize you were giving. Every time you've spoken from frustration, fear, or limitation, reality heard those commands clearly and began implementing them immediately. When you declared, "I'm always broke," reality responded with perfect obedience by arranging circumstances to keep you broke. When you announced, "Good things never happen to me," reality dutifully made sure good things stayed away. Reality isn't being mean or testing you. It's simply doing exactly what you told it to do through the authority of your spoken word. This realization transforms everything because it means reality is actually your most faithful ally, waiting eagerly to serve your next command. It's like having the most responsive assistant in the world, one who never questions your instructions and immediately begins working to manifest whatever you declare. The tragedy is that most people have been giving this perfect assistant terrible instructions without realizing it. The shift happens when you understand that your words should function like a magnet. Think about how magnets operate in the physical world. A magnet doesn't plead with metal objects, trying to convince them to move closer. It doesn't repeat its magnetic field over and over, hoping the metal will eventually notice. It doesn't bargain or negotiate or explain why the metal should be attracted to it. The magnet simply exists in its natural state of magnetic power, and everything that responds to that frequency rushes toward it automatically. This is exactly how your financial declaration should work. When you speak from authentic authority about money, you're not trying to convince the universe to give you what you want. You're not negotiating or explaining why you deserve abundance. You're simply existing in your natural state of commanding power, and wealth moves toward you because that's how the law of attraction actually functions. Most people have it backwards. They think they need to chase money, pursue opportunities, or convince abundance to notice them. But authentic authority works in the opposite direction. When you embody true financial command, Opportunities begin chasing you, money starts flowing toward you, and abundance seeks you out. Now I want to reveal the precise moment when this magnetic authority clicks into place, because there's a specific shift in your internal state that transforms you from someone who chases wealth into someone wealth seeks. Write in the comments, "I am magnetic," if you're ready to stop chasing and start attracting through the natural power of your authority. That precise moment of magnetic authority clicks into place when you finally grasp how much time and energy you've been wasting through the completely backwards approach that most people use. Think about all those mornings you've stood in front of the mirror, mechanically repeating the same affirmations 50 times, hoping that somehow the repetition would make them more real. Think about all those journals filled with the same desires written over and over again, as if the universe were a forgetful teacher who needed constant reminders about your homework assignments. The revelation hits you like lightning when you realize it was never about quantity. It was never about persistence in the traditional sense. It was never about proving your dedication through endless repetition. The entire time, it was about the quality of conviction behind your words the very first time you spoke them. Every moment you spent chanting weak affirmations was actually working against you, reinforcing the underlying belief that your words lacked power on their own. This understanding completely transforms your relationship with your own voice, because you begin to recognize that the universe doesn't operate like a cosmic customer service department that needs multiple requests before processing your order. The universe doesn't have memory problems requiring daily reminders about what you want. It doesn't need you to submit the same application for abundance every morning like some kind of spiritual bureaucracy. What the universe needs from you is a single moment of such complete conviction that reality has absolutely no choice but to begin rearranging itself around your declaration. It's waiting for that one lightning strike of certainty that cuts through all doubt, all hesitation, all the mental noise of maybe and hopefully and if I'm lucky. When you finally speak with that level of absolute authority, the universe doesn't need to hear it again because it heard you perfectly the first time. This is why people who naturally attract wealth seem to do it so effortlessly. They're not spending hours every day repeating mantras or visualizing dollar signs. They make decisions about money from a place of quiet certainty, speak those decisions once with conviction, and then move forward. As if those declarations were already accomplished facts. They don't second-guess themselves or feel the need to repeat their commands because they trust in the power of their own word. The shift from repetition to authority feels almost too simple at first, which is why most people resist it. They've been conditioned to believe that transformation requires struggle, that manifesting wealth should feel like hard work, that anything worthwhile must involve extensive effort and time. Now, I want to explore what happens in that crucial moment when you finally stop treating your desires like homework assignments that need constant review and start treating them like royal decrees that reshape reality through the sheer force of your conviction. Write in the comments, "I trust my first word," if you're ready to stop repeating and start commanding with single-strike authority. In that crucial moment when you finally stop treating your desires like homework assignments and start treating them like royal decrees, you step into what Florence Scovel Shinn meant when she taught about being still and knowing your power. Most people completely misunderstand this teaching, thinking it's about meditation, quiet contemplation, or finding inner peace through silence. But Shinn wasn't talking about being physically still or mentally quiet. She was pointing to something far more profound and transformative. Being still and knowing your power means reaching that unshakable place of certainty where you recognize that your word is not a request submitted to some higher authority for approval. Your word is law itself. When you speak from this place of absolute knowing, you're not asking the universe for permission to have what you want. You're not presenting a case for why you deserve abundance. You're simply announcing what already exists in the realm of truth, and reality begins conforming to that announcement. This isn't about developing spiritual powers or accessing some mystical ability. This is about recognizing the authority you already possess and have been using unconsciously your entire life. When you finally stand in this truth and speak with authentic power, something extraordinary happens that everyone around you can sense immediately. The entire atmosphere shifts around you in ways that are subtle but undeniable. People begin noticing you differently without being able to explain exactly what has changed. There's something in your presence, something in the way you carry yourself, something in the quiet certainty behind your words that commands respect and attention. You're not trying to impress anyone or prove anything to them. You're simply existing in your natural state of authority, and that energy is magnetic to both people and opportunities. Doors that were previously invisible suddenly become apparent. Conversations that lead to unexpected possibilities start happening naturally. People mention opportunities that align perfectly with your financial goals, not because you're desperately networking or pushing for connections, but because your energy attracts the right situations effortlessly. Money begins flowing through channels you never anticipated, in amounts that surprise you, with timing that feels almost orchestrated. This atmospheric shift happens because you've stopped broadcasting the frequency of need and desperation that repels abundance. Instead, you're emanating the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth and expects reality to reflect that worth accordingly. You're no longer energetically begging or hoping or trying to convince anyone of anything. You're simply being who you truly are, and that authentic power draws everything you need directly to you. The transformation extends beyond just financial circumstances, because this journey of reclaiming your voice changes how you show up in every area of your life. Your relationships shift, your career evolves, your entire experience of being alive becomes more aligned with your actual potential, rather than the limited story you've been unconsciously telling yourself. Now, I want to reveal the specific moment when you're ready to speak the command that changes everything. Because there's a particular internal shift that must happen before your words carry this level of transformative authority. Write in the comments, "I feel the shift happening," if you're sensing this atmospheric change beginning to occur in your own presence. And D, energy. That specific internal shift happens when you realize this journey isn't just about attracting more money into your current identity. This is about stepping into a completely new version of yourself, one where your words are not wishes floating hopefully into the universe, but decrees that reshape reality through their very utterance. This transformation of identity is what makes all the difference between people who occasionally manifest small improvements and those who completely revolutionize their financial circumstances. When you accept this new identity, everything changes fundamentally, because you can no longer relate to money from the same position of uncertainty and lack. You can't go back to thinking of yourself as someone who hopes things will work out, or someone who tries really hard but never gets a break. Those old stories about your relationship with abundance become impossible to maintain because they contradict who you now know yourself to be. This creates what I call the point of no return, and it's both the most liberating and the most terrifying moment in this entire process. Once you truly understand that your words carry the force of law, once you recognize that every declaration you make is actively creating your reality, you can't pretend anymore. You can't maintain the comfortable fiction that you're powerless over your circumstances. You can't casually say, "I'm unlucky," because you know that statement is actually a command that reality will obey perfectly. You can no longer utter phrases like, "maybe someday," or "if I'm lucky," or "I hope things will change," because you recognize these aren't innocent expressions of uncertainty. They're authoritative declarations that keep you trapped in cycles of limitation and waiting. Every time you speak, you know reality is listening and responding accordingly. This awareness makes careless words impossible and transforms every conversation into an opportunity to consciously create your experience. Most people spend their entire lives unconsciously issuing commands that work against their deepest desires, then wondering why their circumstances never improve. But once you cross this threshold of awareness, unconscious creation becomes impossible. You become hyper-aware of the creative power behind every word you speak, every thought you think, every story you tell about your life. This can feel overwhelming at first because it means taking complete responsibility for your current circumstances. There's no one else to blame for your financial situation. There's no external force keeping you limited. There's no cosmic conspiracy preventing your success. There's only the accumulated impact of every command you've issued through your words, thoughts, and beliefs over the years. Now, I want to guide you through what happens when you're finally ready to issue your first conscious command with full awareness of its power. Because this moment requires a level of courage and conviction that most people never access. Write in the comments, "I accept full responsibility," if you're ready to cross this point of no return and claim conscious authority over your financial reality. When you're finally ready to issue your first conscious command with full awareness of its power, you realize that everything up to this point has been preparation for a single moment of truth. You've learned why endless repetition undermines your authority instead of strengthening it. You've felt the profound difference between speaking from desperation and speaking from genuine power. You've recognized that your words already carry tremendous creative force and that you've been unconsciously using that force against yourself for years. Now you're standing at the threshold of conscious creation, ready for the command itself, the one line you'll only need to say once, the declaration that will shift your entire relationship with money from begging to commanding, from hoping to knowing, from someday to now. But this moment requires something most people never access: the courage to speak with absolute authority about your financial reality while every circumstance around you might be whispering that you have no right to such certainty. Think of a storm building on the horizon. The air grows heavy and charged with electricity. The sky darkens with pregnant clouds. Everything in the atmosphere feels tense, waiting, poised for the inevitable release of power that's been gathering momentum. You can sense something monumental is about to happen, even though the lightning hasn't struck yet. That's exactly where you are right now in your journey toward financial transformation. You've felt the energy building throughout this entire process. You've sensed the shift in your understanding about your own power. You've recognized the authority that's been dormant within you, waiting for this precise moment of conscious activation. Everything has been leading to this single point of release where theory becomes reality, where understanding transforms into action, where preparation culminates in manifestation. The beautiful tension you feel right now isn't anxiety or uncertainty. It's the natural response to standing on the edge of profound change. It's the recognition that once you speak this command with full conviction, there's no going back to the old story of limitation and struggle. You'll have crossed into a new identity where your word carries the weight of law and your financial circumstances must align accordingly. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding this moment because it demands complete ownership of their creative power. It requires abandoning the comfortable victim story that explains away their limitations. It means accepting that they are, and have always been, the author of their financial experience. Now, I want to prepare you for the exact moment when you'll speak the command that changes everything. Because this isn't just about saying the right words. It's about embodying the authority that makes those words irresistible to reality itself. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for the command," if you feel this electric anticipation building and you're prepared to step into conscious financial authority. When you prepare to speak the command that changes everything, remember that you've been holding the baton of authority your entire life. Picture a conductor standing before a magnificent orchestra. Dozens of musicians sit ready with their instruments, waiting in perfect silence. The conductor doesn't need to plead with them or explain why they should play. He doesn't repeat his gesture multiple times, hoping someone might notice. He simply raises his hand with complete certainty. And in that single moment of authority, the entire hall erupts with coordinated sound that moves people to tears. This is the exact same power you possess right now. You've been the conductor of your own financial symphony all along, but instead of directing a masterpiece, you've been unconsciously conducting chaos through scattered, uncertain gestures. Your instruments have been responding perfectly to your directions, but your directions have been filled with doubt, limitation, and fear. The orchestra of reality has been playing exactly what you've been conducting. The moment you speak your financial command with genuine authority, you become like electricity flowing through a circuit. Electricity doesn't slowly negotiate with a light bulb, trying to convince it to glow. It doesn't repeat itself over and over, hoping the bulb will eventually understand what's being asked. The switch flips once, and instantly the entire room floods with illumination. There's no delay, no hesitation, no gradual buildup. Pure power meets receptive circuitry, and transformation happens immediately. This is precisely how your command should work. When you speak with authentic authority about money, you're not trying to convince the universe of anything. You're not building a case or presenting evidence for why you deserve abundance. You're simply activating a switch that's been waiting for your conscious activation. The moment you flip that switch through your declaration, the entire landscape of your financial reality begins flooding with new possibilities. Most people never access this switch because they're afraid of their own power. They spend years trying to earn the right to flip it, thinking they need to be more spiritual, more deserving, more prepared. But the switch has always been there, waiting for the moment when you finally recognize that you were born with access to it. Your worthiness was never in question. Your authority was never missing. You just needed to remember how to use what was always yours. The beautiful truth is that the universe has been perfectly designed to respond to conscious authority. It's not resistant to your commands. It's not testing your resolve. It's eagerly waiting for clear, decisive direction from someone who knows how to give it. Now I want to reveal the exact words that activate this switch, because after everything we've explored together, you're finally ready to hear the command that transforms your relationship with money from begging to commanding. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to flip the switch," if you feel prepared to activate the authority that's been waiting inside you all along. After everything we've explored together, you're finally ready to understand that authority isn't about the volume of your voice or the number of times you repeat yourself. Authority lives entirely in the realm of certainty. Certainty is the most magnetic force in the universe, more powerful than hope, more attractive than desire, more irresistible than any amount of effort or struggle. When you speak with absolute certainty about your financial reality, you create an energetic pull that bends circumstances in ways that hesitation and doubt never will. Think about the most influential people you've encountered in your life, the ones who shaped outcomes, moved mountains, created change around them. They weren't necessarily the loudest or the most persistent. They were the ones who spoke with such complete conviction that questioning them simply didn't occur to anyone. Their certainty was so absolute that it became contagious, spreading to everyone in their presence until entire groups of people began acting as if their declarations were already established facts. This magnetic quality of certainty explains why your negative declarations about money have been so devastatingly effective throughout your life. When you've muttered, "I'm always broke," or announced, "I never catch a break financially," you weren't speaking those limitations with hesitation or doubt. You were declaring them with the full conviction of someone who had witnessed plenty of evidence to support those beliefs. Your certainty about lack was magnetic, and it attracted more experiences of lack with ruthless efficiency. You've already proven this principle beyond any doubt through your own lived experience. Every limitation you're currently facing exists because at some point you spoke it into being with absolute conviction. Your fear was powerful enough to create restriction. Your doubt was magnetic enough to attract disappointment. Your certainty about struggle was authoritative enough to command ongoing financial challenges. If those negative emotions carried enough creative force to shape your entire financial landscape, imagine what happens when you direct that same level of certainty toward abundance, success, and unlimited possibility. The transformation isn't about developing new abilities or accessing mystical powers you don't currently possess. The mechanism that created your current limitations is identical to the mechanism that will create your financial freedom. Same authority, same magnetic. Certainty, same single-moment declaration. The only difference is the direction you're pointing that tremendous creative force. This realization brings you to the edge of the most important moment in your financial journey, because you're about to discover that the command itself is both simpler and more powerful than anything you've imagined. Now, I want to reveal the specific words that carry this magnetic certainty, because understanding how to embody absolute conviction will determine whether your command transforms your reality or simply becomes another empty phrase. Write in the comments, "My certainty is magnetic," if you're ready to direct your proven creative power toward abundance instead of limitation. When you finally speak the command with absolute authority, you need to understand that it won't feel safe or comfortable the first time. It will feel absolute, final, almost terrifyingly certain. This isn't the gentle feeling of hope or the warm sensation of positive thinking. This is the weight of someone who knows beyond any doubt that their word creates reality. Once you cross that line and speak with genuine authority about your financial circumstances, you can never again comfort yourself with victim stories about being unlucky or forgotten by the universe. This moment of absolute authority demands that you abandon every excuse you've ever used to explain your limitations. You can't speak with true command about money while still believing that external forces control your circumstances. You can't declare financial abundance while secretly thinking that success depends on luck, connections, or perfect timing. The authority required for this command only exists in the complete absence of those limiting beliefs. Everything has led to this precise moment of truth. You've learned why endless repetition undermines your power instead of strengthening it. You've felt the profound difference between speaking from desperation and speaking from genuine conviction. You've recognized that your words already carry tremendous creative force through your past experiences with negative declarations. You've understood that certainty is magnetic while hesitation repels what you desire most. Now you're ready to hear the command that makes wealth obey instantly. But before I reveal those specific words, you need to understand that the command itself is deceptively simple. It doesn't sound mystical or complicated. It doesn't require perfect pronunciation or special circumstances. The power isn't in the complexity of the phrase, but in the absolute certainty with which you speak it. The transformation happens not because of magical words, but because of the authority you finally claim when you speak them. Most people will hear this command and dismiss it as too simple to work. They'll want something more elaborate, more spiritual sounding, more impressive. But that reaction reveals exactly why they've struggled financially. They're still looking for external power instead of recognizing the authority they already possess. They're still hoping for a secret formula instead of claiming their birthright as conscious creators. The command works because it aligns your conscious declaration with the creative power you've been using unconsciously your entire life. When you speak it with genuine authority, you're not trying to convince the universe of anything new. You're simply directing the same force that created your current limitations toward creating unlimited abundance instead. Now, I want to prepare you for the exact moment when you'll speak these words, because the way you embody this authority will determine whether this becomes another forgotten affirmation or the turning point that transforms your financial reality forever. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for absolute authority," if you feel prepared to cross the line from hoping to commanding your financial destiny. When you prepare to speak these specific words, remember that the way you embody this authority will determine whether this becomes another forgotten affirmation or the turning point that transforms your financial reality forever. The command is deceptively simple. Money obeys my call. These 4 words contain everything we've been building toward throughout this entire journey. This isn't a whisper spoken tentatively into the void. This isn't a hopeful phrase repeated like a prayer. This is a declaration spoken as law, with the full weight of someone who finally recognizes their authority over their financial circumstances. When you say this with genuine conviction, something shifts in your nervous system that most people never experience. You'll feel a distinct weight settling in your chest, not from anxiety or fear, but from the recognition of your own power. There's often an electric sensation that runs down your spine, a physical response to finally aligning your conscious voice with the creative authority you've possessed all along. This isn't your imagination creating pleasant sensations to make you feel better. This is your entire being recognizing that you've finally stepped into conscious command of forces you've been unconsciously directing your entire life. The physical response happens because your body knows when you're speaking truth versus when you're just reciting words. Your nervous system can distinguish between authentic authority and performed confidence. When you speak, "Money obeys my call," with genuine conviction, every cell in your body recognizes that you finally claimed your rightful position as the creator of your financial experience. Most people will say these words and feel nothing because they're still approaching this like an affirmation exercise rather than a declaration of cosmic law. They'll speak with the energy of someone trying to convince themselves of something they don't quite believe rather than someone announcing something they know to be absolutely true. The difference in energetic frequency between these two approaches creates completely different results. The transformation begins the moment you recognize that you're not requesting money to obey your call. You're not asking the universe to please consider making money responsive to your voice. You're announcing a fundamental truth about how reality operates when someone finally steps into conscious authority over their circumstances. Now, I want to explore what happens in your daily life when you begin operating from this new identity, because speaking the command once is just the beginning of a complete transformation in how you relate to money, opportunities, and your own creative power. Write in the comments, "Money obeys my call," if you're ready to speak this declaration with the full authority of someone who finally knows their power. When you begin operating from this new identity, the most crucial understanding is that this isn't about turning the command into another daily ritual where you stand in front of your mirror chanting, "Money obeys my call," hundreds of times every morning. That approach would completely contradict everything we've discovered about how authority actually operates. Authority doesn't need to repeat itself because it carries such inherent conviction that one declaration is sufficient to set everything in motion. Think about how someone with genuine financial confidence moves through their day. They don't wake up every morning trying to convince themselves they're wealthy. They don't spend their commute repeating affirmations about abundance. They simply live as if their financial success is an established fact, making decisions from that place of certainty, speaking from that position of quiet confidence, carrying themselves with the natural assurance of someone who knows their worth and expects the world to reflect it accordingly. This is the identity shift that transforms everything. Once you've spoken the command with authentic authority, you begin living as if it's already accomplished. When you walk into a business meeting, you carry yourself like someone whose call money obeys. When you make financial decisions, you approach them from the position of someone who commands wealth rather than someone who hopes for it. When opportunities present themselves, you evaluate them with the confidence of someone who knows more opportunities are always available because money responds to your voice. From this moment forward, this becomes your fundamental identity. You don't walk through the world like someone who's still trying to figure out how to make money work for them. You don't think like someone who's at the mercy of economic conditions, market fluctuations, or other people's decisions about your worth. You don't speak like someone who's hoping the universe will eventually notice their needs and maybe consider helping them out. Instead, you carry yourself with the quiet authority of someone who understands that wealth is not in charge of you. You are in charge of wealth. Money doesn't dictate your mood, your choices, or your sense of possibility. You dictate money's movement through your conscious commands and authoritative decisions. This isn't arrogance or delusion. This is the natural confidence that emerges when you finally recognize your true relationship with financial abundance. The integration happens gradually in your daily interactions. People begin responding to you differently without being able to articulate exactly what has changed. Opportunities start appearing that align perfectly with your financial goals. Money begins flowing through unexpected channels with timing that feels almost orchestrated, because you're finally operating from the frequency that attracts rather than repels abundance. Understanding how to maintain this authority in real-world situations will determine whether this transformation becomes permanent or fades back into old patterns of financial struggle. The key is remembering that every interaction, Every decision, every word you speak, is either reinforcing your new identity as someone who commands wealth or pulling you back into the old story of limitation and lack. When challenges arise, and they will, you don't abandon your authority. You don't slip back into victim language or desperate energy. You maintain the same quiet certainty that allowed you to speak the command in the first place. Because now you understand. The truth: money has been waiting for your call all along. You were never powerless. You were never forgotten. You were simply unconscious of the incredible creative authority you possessed. If this journey has resonated with you, if you've felt the shift happening in your own relationship with money and power, then I want you to stay connected with this community we're building. Subscribe to this channel because this is where we continue exploring the deeper mechanics of conscious creation, the hidden laws that govern abundance, and the practical applications of living from authentic authority rather than desperate hope. If you made it all the way to the end of this transformation, leave a comment saying, "I command my reality now, so I know you were here for the complete journey." Your presence through this entire process tells me you're serious about changing your financial circumstances, and that kind of commitment deserves to be acknowledged. Hit the like button if you feel the connection we've created through this exploration of your true power. Every like helps this message reach others who are ready to stop begging and start commanding their financial destiny. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into how to maintain this new identity when old circumstances try to pull you back into limitation. Click and continue with me over there, because your transformation is just beginning, and I want to make sure you have everything you need to make this shift permanent. Your authority is real, your power is waiting, and your financial reality is about to change in ways that will surprise even you.